One thing actually I didn't get into as much before, but the writing of the show. What was the writing process like?
Well, writing is the key. And I tell everybody that, first of all, let me back up a little. The editors are so important. People dismiss editing. It's just essential. And this was in the early days of digital editing, where you could just go anywhere easily, any shot. We had 12 gigabytes. Wow. My watch has got 12 gigabytes. But then the writing, I was a head writer, and it just has to be that way. If you're Jay Leno and you have the Jay Leno show, Jay Leno's just got to be the head writer. The show is going to be an extension of Jay Leno. So 4 bells, we're halfway through the watch. So it's 2 more hours and then you change. So Jay Leno has to be the head writer of the Jay Leno show. David Letterman has to be the head writer of the David Letterman show. So Bill Nye was the head writer of the Bill Nye show. But the people that we found to come write for us, we went to Hollywood or to Los Angeles. This was woo for people from Seattle, woo. And we met 2 young writers, John Sherman and Melissa Gould, and they're just brilliant. I say this all the time. John Sherman's writing just kind of sparkles. It just has an extra little something. And he went on to be the story editor of Frasier. He's a very successful guy. He had to leave the show. He got a better offer from MTV, and he left. What are you going to do? He was under contract, but I said, "What are you going to do? You're working on a kid show in Seattle, man." So they set the tone, the quality, and the other people that came along in the later years were very good because sort of looking back, the bar had been set pretty high, so we kept it high. And Elizabeth Brock, the older statesman. Now, bear in mind, when I say older, she might have been 48 at the time. She wasn't, 90. But she insisted that we keep the music video in. So the music video was an experiment. Or let's try this in the pilot, which was about the water cycle. And it was very well received. So then we made sure every one of the 100 shows had a music video. And the writers would write those lyrics. And people still talk to me about the RECYCLE, recycle video instead of respect. And people still talk about the dinosaur video, and the ocean life, power to the plankton is very good. They're all good. But somebody asked me about power to the plankton, and Morrissey for the Momentum show, Momentum C. So funny. So the other thing, this is a little story that I find charming. So John Sherman wrote just a fabulous lyrics to the song My Sharona for the Sun show, the show about the sun, Bright Corona. All right, well, the great thing was, and this is PBS, this is the power of PBS, especially in those days before cable television, and this sort of just crazy aggression about not spending money on production. We could use the original songs and get them cleared. That is to say, get the rights to use them for educational purposes on public broadcasting. So you could get the real song and then do new lyrics. You had to get permission from the artists. So Madonna let us use her songs. James Brown's Foundation let us use the song and so on. But Bright Corona, we couldn't find the band called the Knack. They had disbanded. The band had disbanded. And they have rebanded now. Apparently they're playing in Vegas. The Knack is back together. But we couldn't do Bright Corona because we couldn't find the band. Oh, the heartbreak. So the writers were a huge part of the show. Now, almost everything that I said on camera, I wrote. Jim, once in a while, Jim McKenna would write something really good. But he was busy with other stuff. So I would sit there every day with an Apple, a Mac 140, an old black and white screen laptop. And I would write all the words. And then the other thing that happened is just, look, you guys, I was doing my best. You get on the set, And the way I don't know if you're familiar with it. So in the beginning of the show, we have a thing we called the walk, where you'd walk from one side to the other. And this is Jim and Aaron's vision. And, well, I've contributed. But it's based on the opening of a James Bond movie, where James Bond is talking to Q, the equipment guy, Equipment Q, about all the stuff. So James Bond and Q are walking along, and all this crazy stuff's going on behind them. But they're just, it's just what we do here. We have a machine gun a guy wearing a trench coat, and he's fine. And tear gas goes off when you open your briefcase, and this ballpoint pen explodes, but it's really a laser. And so that's the way it is. You're walking through the lab with Bill, and he's talking to you, the viewer. You're Q, or I'm Q rather, and you're James Bond. And all this stuff's going on, but we just keep going. So that was sort of the premise of the open of the show, and that turned out to be a really successful format. So it's once more where television is derived from television. We weren't the pioneers of that.
Actually, I'm curious about the music when you're talking about Madonna letting you use the song. Did you ever have any encounters with those people who said we love the show, or they've seen it and you got feedback what they thought?
No, except Chris Ballou, who was the lead singer of a band called the Presidents of the United States of America. He re-sang his own song. We changed going to the country, gonna eat some peaches, to going to the country, gonna eat some farm food, for the show about farming. And that was really, it was very gratifying. It's cool. The guy, really liked the show. It was nice.
Do you have any favorite, just personal, either favorite episodes or the ones that were the hardest to do, so the most rewarding?
Well, before we get too far into this, I remind everybody who wants the job dancing on Broadway to never say your favorite partner, because then they think you don't want to dance with the other people. But there were some great moments. I mean, there's something in every show that really appeals to me, I got to say. And when I got a ride in the Blue Angels F-18 Hornet fighter plane, that was pretty cool. Getting a ride in the A-6 fighter bomber, the Intruder, that was pretty great. However, we had a globe with little solar panels on it, and you tilt it toward the light, and this motor starts running faster. You tilt it away from the light, and it starts running slower, just the way you have winter and summer on the Earth's surface. That was pretty gratifying. It's a great bit. I think about it. So it was going to Radio Shack, spending $20 and a globe, and it's just that's it. That's how it works. We explained it. The Earth Season Show, where we show the Earth is tilted. It's really good. And scuba diving. I mean, you go to Hawaii and jump around with a bunch of fish. It's just fabulous. There's so many just great experiences, and I say this all the time. I try to get it. I try to get how cool it was and how many great things we were involved in. But it was so busy. There was always something to do. You could never spike the ball, if I understand the use of that term. But looking back, it was worth it. It was a great thing. So I took tremendous pride in it. Whenever little things would go wrong, it would just bug you. Doggone it, we could have done that better.
Was there one that you consider, I don't know, like either the craziest or the most daring one that you did, and you look back and go, God, I don't even know how we either got away with it or how we accomplished it?
Well, we were in a forest fire, and we just drove past the nominal guards because we're TV, and we were up there, and it's a forest fire, and there's a verb when the fire goes from treetop to treetop, they call it crowning, the crowns of the trees. And that's happening, man. And cinders are falling down, and you think it's going to be fine. But then you realize how hot it really is. And you just can't be in there. You can feel it on your face, the backs of your hands. And the guy showed up, Mr. Firefighter guy, and he was angry. And we didn't have to do that, but we got the shots, as the saying goes. That was guerrilla TV. Then other times, in Seattle, there aren't the aggressive people trying to make money on locations. So if you just go in and do it and leave, it was pretty good. Like we got access to the parks. We get permits for the year or for the season that we could go into any park. That was really good. It was good for business. So we did a lot of things in the Pacific Northwest that were really, there's a volcano. There's Mount St. Helens in the Pacific Northwest. You drive there. The Space Needle is a fantastic building if you're going to do a show about architecture. It's great. And Puget Sound is an archipelago. It's a complex water system, and you can get just terrific views of that. So that was really good.
Did you have a sense at the time, I don't know if this is something you find out later or in the middle of it, you go, we are doing something kind of revolutionary. Did you feel that's what it was?
Well, here's what I'd say. The crew realized it. And I remember Don Lang, the gaffer, the best boy, the head lighting guy, saying, I'm telling you, this is going to be really something. And, it's three guys. The lighting guys are three guys just doing their job and doing a good job. And that's where I really learned the importance of lighting. I started to say this about the walk at the beginning of the show where James Bond and the Q were walking along where you're James Bond and I'm Q. I would find my way around the set by the lights, by the pools of light, by the spots, the places where the lighting was on me or on the thing we're showing. And so I really got an appreciation for the lighting. And then that's when I would do the rewriting, where you had to have words that took the right number of beats, right amount of time to get from place to place. And so a big thing was the as shot script, as it's called. So you've written it, but then you go to do it. You got to leave out words. You got to add words to make time to get from place to place. And that took a lot of discipline, took a lot of concentration. But very proud of it, very gratifying, and so on.
Now, did it become something more? I'm curious what your anticipation of it was at the beginning, and when you kind of got to the end of the series, did it achieve everything you anticipated and become everything you anticipated?
Well, it was more than I anticipated. I mean, later on, our budgets went up a little bit, and you could take it up that notch that we all wanted to take it up at first. Instead of just using straws and drinking glasses, we could get plexiglass things custom made. So those shows there in the 60s and 70s and 80s, by that I mean out of 100, we really had it going on. So it was good, but when you handle spiders all day for a week, and the people that own the spiders as pets, they're afraid of the spiders, kind of wears you out, I will say. It's like, wow, this got enough venom to kill 4 of us. Cool, let's go. Let's pet it.
All right, we need to stop for now. We're starting?
Wait. We haven't figured
Stop talking, because
Yeah. Well, I'm the problem. God, I can just talk and talk.
the solution. I guess, moving on to, actually, you won a lot of Emmys. Was that, speaking of anticipation, did you ever picture that happening, and what did that mean to you, winning Emmys?
Winning Emmys is fantastic. But bear in mind that I had won several local Emmys in the Seattle area. And I guess it's Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, Alaska. That's the region. I wonder if Montana, I should know. But you work really hard on a bit, and then it wins an Emmy. It's really something. So when the show started winning national Emmys, I wasn't surprised when the show started winning. But then one year I won for performer in children's series, and that was really something because, of course, it's not a competition, as Steve Martin joked, but it is. I mean, one person's going to win among these other shows. So in those days, there was a show called Beekman's World, and Mark Waxman was a producer. Paul Zaloom was the guy on camera. And then there was Mr. Rogers. There was Kevin, who plays Elmo. He was there. and Sherry Lewis and me. And I won that year. It was really crazy. I was really worried about it because what they don't want you to do is go too long, right? You get out there, you just, I want to thank everybody for the hard work. Thanks, this is really great. And then you get off, and at that time, Dick Clark was still the guy, was with the clipboard and the thing and cans on big earmuffs and boom mic. And so I finished on time. Good job, good job. Then he's gone. I'm like, Dick Clark said, good, wow, cool. So I was nominated a couple other times, but the time I would have won was when Sherry Lewis won, but she was dead. So they awarded it to her posthumously. So it's very gratifying. It was great. So that one, I'm proud of. Best Performing Children's Series, and I also won for producing, because most of the science bits, they were kind of my idea, and then the people that worked with me would make it really good. But I came up with a lot of the big bits, and so that was very gratifying.
Were there any, whether it's a bit or a theme for a show, that were kind of impossible to try to do? You had an idea and then you couldn't carry it out?
Not so much doing the Science Guy show. On other shows, that's come up. But on the science, I'll tell you a great one we did on the Science Guy show. So atoms are mostly empty space. So I'm pretty sure I had the idea, let's go to a parking lot at night, and we'll have the nucleus of the atom will be about this big, and then the electron is half a kilometer away, 5 soccer fields away. No, man, let's go to Salt Lake. Let's go to the Great Salt Lake. Which I went, cool. I didn't realize we had the budget. So we went to the Great Salt Lake. And if you've never been there, the salt flats are salt. And they're flat. And they go on. It looks like that mountain's 5 miles away. It's 50 or 60 miles away. Just flat. And so that was a really compelling bit where here's the nucleus of the atom, we had a bumble ball, a children's toy that vibrates, and the electron was a light emitting diode 5 soccer fields away. It was really good.
Were there other ones like that like just became these big concepts you couldn't have imagined that you would pull off?
Another one that's very popular among teachers. And looking back, we just sort of did it one day without putting all the resources in it that it might have deserved, was a model of the solar system to scale. So the sun is a weather balloon. And the standard, we're going to start with the Earth. The Earth will be a centimeter. And another innovation of the Science Guy show, we did everything the metric system, which is a big thing with me. As an engineer, I worked at Boeing in inches, and then I worked at Sunstrand mostly in inches, and then I worked at Microencoder for a Japanese company in the metric system. Metric system is just easier. Metric system is just generally easier. There's one thing that inches are good at, and that's finding the middle. If you're measuring something and you want to find the center because everything's in halves and quarters and fractions, that's good. But after that, it's kind of a pain in the neck. And I talk all the time about you watch old movies of like the Vanguard rocket starts to take off, and it falls over and explodes, and it's a disaster. That's the English system right there. So we did the show in the metric system, which also helps it stand the test of time. But anyway, so we started with the Earth 1 centimeter, then the sun's 109 centimeters. That's a number for everybody to know. The sun's diameter is about 109 Earths. It's a good number to know. 50 states, 109 Earths, 2.54 centimeters per inch. In fact, an inch is now defined to only 3 digits, 2.54 centimeters. So I rode my bicycle from the sun to Mercury to Venus to Earth, out all the way to Pluto, which in those days was still one of the traditional planets. And it was a very good bit. It's 4 kilometers. It's nearly 2 miles. So It was a really good bit, but we just, I won't say threw it together, but we used stuff that we had around rather than building elaborate planet stations. But it gets the point across because the graphics were so good. Wow. The graphics guys just really stepped up on that.
Were there any censorship issues and being told don't do this, you can't do that?
Well, during the Evolution show, we got a call from somebody at PBS, don't forget to say evolution's just a theory. And I said, no, evolution is a discovery and a fact. No, we're not going to pull back from that and do some inappropriate acceptance of creationism or intelligent design as an alternative to evolution. That's funny, because it came up again recently. No, evolution is science. It is something that humans discovered. You can make predictions with it. It is of great value. It's changed the world. And so that's about it. One time we used the word but, but by then the show was so well accepted it was all right.
What happened when they gave you that directive? Did you say, you told them, I'm going to do it this way, and they went,
I said,
okay.
No, forget it.
And they went, okay.
Well, this was another advantage of being in Seattle. It was a little too much trouble for studio executives to hassle us. And this is a story worth keeping, I think. These people come up from Disney to see just what is the problem. Why is this simple show in Seattle costing money and being behind schedule? What is going on? And they walk into the studio and they see the problem right away. They see the problem immediately. They say, why did you guys run brick? This is a new phrase for me. Why did you run brick up 2 stories? And that meaning the background was 2 stories tall instead of just 1.5 stories tall or whatever conventional. And I said to them, studio executives, I said, this is a brick wall. It looks just like styrofoam brick that you're familiar with. It looks just like fake brick, but this is real brick. And they went, oh, wow. They were embarrassed. It was a funny moment. Oh, it hadn't even occurred to them that you'd make a brick wall out of brick. It was a moment. Now, we had given it a wash to make it a little brighter. Sort of thin paint. But that was funny. And then the other story, before the Science Guy show, I did a thing for Back to the Future cartoon show, which is not very many people have ever seen it or heard of it, but it was on for a couple seasons. And in the middle of the animated show, it would cut to the video encyclopedia with Christopher Lloyd, the guy who played Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And then it would cut to me. And I had no lines. I would just do a science demonstration that I was alleged or believed to be good at. But we had this thing where you rub a balloon on your hair, you get static electricity. So then you have another balloon hanging from a string, and you bring this balloon near it, and they're attracted. Okay. So, okay, we're going to move the lights. We're going to gaffer, run around in circles. Okay. So I'm standing there with a balloon for a couple minutes, and it's lost its zap, its charge. So when I go to do it, there's not enough pull. Okay, bring in the adhesive. Let's go. Bring in the glue. So instantly they come running in, spray mount 77 all over the thing, and the balloons come together and it doesn't look right. Visually, it does not tell the story of static electricity. And I tell those 2 stories from time to time because it just was the advantage of being in Seattle. When we did the static electricity show, we really used static electricity and we really pulled balloons together, really, instead of faking it. We really had a real brick wall. Although it was, by Hollywood standards, an extremely low-budget show, we had this tradition that gives it legs. It helps it stand the test of time.
Now, when you did, I'm curious about the reaction to the Evolution show in particular. Did you get, I assume you were able to do it the way you wanted to?
Not
did
quite.
You get,
Not quite. Yeah. There was a political issue. We just focused on the really observable things, breeding dogs, fossil bones. Didn't go into a tirade about the great tragedy of not teaching young people about the discovery of evolution. And It's okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't career-ending, as I like to say. That's coming now, apparently.
Was that the only time you felt like you had to compromise a little bit in what you did, or not even then?
Well, I guess we just worked with it. I would have had bigger demonstrations, but it was okay. It was okay. I guess it's on my mind this week. It's September of 2012, for those of you tuning in, and I made a statement a few months ago about the importance of not teaching kids creationism as an alternative to evolution. And it's gone viral, as we say here in the early 21st century. And I guess it's on my mind.
That's it. Does it surprise you how, because that went to 2 million hits or something
Oh,
like
no,
that
it's
instantly?
yesterday or the day before yesterday was 3.7. It might be 4 million now. So it's surprising because I did that in June of this year, and it didn't get this hype till the end of August or the 1st of September. So it just shows you one thing leads to another. But I stand by the statements. I was expressing frustration at, there's still lawsuits in, there was something that came up in Virginia. I get emails about this, I don't know, but Virginia, Tennessee, Louisiana, Texas, the governor of Texas, who ran for president as a Republican Party nominee, stated openly he doesn't quite believe in evolution, doesn't quite believe in the fundamental idea of all of life science. And as I say, a guy like that, you're not going to change his mind or her mind. The people that you're concerned with are young people. You don't want young people growing up without understanding science.
Now, was it an indication when you saw everything that came out of it, the stature that Bill Nye the Science Guy has, that you
Yeah, I
became...
guess. Because I work to stick to the facts. And people do ask my opinion all the time about science. Like somebody asked me about fluoridated water. Fluoridated water is fine. It's not. I don't think it's a communist plot. There's no evidence of that. Sorry. And you talk to, and just anecdotally, talk to anybody who's. Oh, that's the U.S. mail. Talk to anybody who's was born before, pick a number, like 1957, and compare the number of cavities that person has to somebody born after that. It's generally far, far higher. And fluoridation was discovered in wells. It exists naturally. And then dentists and professionals say, hey, we could do this on purpose. Yeah. So it's related for me. It's science.
It's now, and speaking of kids and stepping back during the show period, and even now, what kind of responses do you get from kids, from grown-ups? Are constantly people coming up and telling you their personal stories about what you meant to them?
Yeah, and as I say this all the time, I try to get it. Somebody comes up to me, the reason I'm a physician is because I watch your show. The reason I'm an engineer is because I watch your show. The reason I'm a scientist is because I watch it. Wow, really? And people tell me that all the time. Now, these are people that come up to you, so they're self-selected. You guys, let me get that.
All right, a little bit, you were talking about the reactions you get from people telling you the meaning.
5 bells. 5 bells.
That's good, right?
Well, it just means you have another 3 bells to go before the end of your watch.
I'll hurry.
No, 8 bells. It's an hour and a half.
The reactions, you have people telling you all the time that the meaning of the show and that is...
Yeah, it's especially gratifying when, people come up to you, they can't talk. They're so excited to meet this celebrity, this guy that was in their living room or their rec room or whatever for several years when they were growing up. I try to get it. I try to understand it, but I don't think I do. I think the impact or the effect of the show was just a lot more than I realize. I just don't get it.
Now, why did it go off the air? Did you feel like you were done at that point?
Well, the expression now is jump the shark. Didn't want to jump the shark. We did 100 shows. Everybody was pretty beat. And there was a change in administration of the U.S. presidency, and it just didn't have legs. How to say? People didn't want to support it anymore in the same way. So everybody, as I say, everybody was tired. Like the ideas were. It was time to do something else. I look back at those last few shows, and they're okay, but they could have been better. And these are all details. So it's very. We did not take it too far and have it not be useful anymore. Have it not be useful to teachers, educators, and not be entertaining anymore.
Do you feel like you accomplished everything that you wanted to accomplish, or there were some things left undone?
Well, I think that we could have had a tremendous, a big effect or impact if we had had merchandise, if we'd had more things for viewers either to buy or get. The National Science Foundation used to send people stuff for free. The Lunchbox Lab of Science, the Big Box of Science, had science demonstrations in it. And the Up-Closifier, which many people would call a bug box, was a microscope that was very easy to use and good. I thought it was good. Those things were free in those days, paid for by the National Science Foundation. And I think if we'd had more of that stuff, the show could have had an even bigger effect or impact. But that's my opinion. I don't have any data for that.
Now, I wanted to maybe quickly just walk through some of the other TV stuff that you've done, like the Eyes of Nye. Explain what that was?
So the Eyes of Nye, the premise is you're going to do a show for grown-ups or for older audiences, people who are developing their critical thinking skills. Let's go high schoolers and above, which is about everybody. And we address topics that don't have a clear answer, that don't have clear conclusion as to which is the right thing to do. Genetically modified foods. You feed tremendous number of people. You make crops much healthier. That is to say, they're more nutritious. The papaya is the classic. But here's the thing that goes wrong. You don't know what happens to the ecosystem. You can have unintended consequences. The monarch butterfly is the time-honored example of this milkweed and this corn pollen affecting the butterflies. And so we did nuclear waste. We did why does any organism have sex? And this is a great question in science. Why don't you just split yourself in half? You're a bacterium. Bacteria reproduce at a rate for most of us unimaginable so fast. Why do you have sex? It's a great question. And apparently the thing that gets you as an organism is not what you might be afraid of, lions and tigers and bears. What gets you is germs and parasites. So you have to have this new combination of genes in order to stay ahead of the germs and parasites.
Now, where did the show air? Just a couple details. Where and how many did you do?
We did 13. It aired on PBS stations, and Disney bought it after a while, and they'd sell it to classrooms. But I couldn't get the old crew back together, and the PBS station in Seattle was doing all kinds of projects that were unfinished. Not just mine, but all these different shows, and eventually the head guy was forced to resign, and it just kind of lost momentum. So we did 13, and then it was there was not enough interest or funding to do any more. And the Eyes of Nye could have been really cool, but with all the overhead and all these troubles, most of the money went to not to the screen. It went to other expenses. I mean, I got paid, but it wasn't me. It was the accounting problems at the PBS station.
So were you always trying to find other things to do within TV to keep?
Well, then I did the Discovery. I did several shows for the Discovery Channel. Did the 100 Greatest Discoveries, the Greatest Inventions, and those are great. Then we did Stuff Happens, and this is all the Science Guy still going. But, I mean, it's not controversial. It never reached the same level that the Science Guy showed it. Came around at the right time with the right political climate to enable it.
And describe Stuff Happens too, since.
So Stuff Happens was is about unintended consequences of human activities. And you think, well, I'll brush my teeth. So you're using sodium lauryl sulfate, which comes from palm oil, which is grown now on plantations that are displacing orangutans. Okay, so you brush your teeth, you're killing orangutans. That was unintended. You know. And then the other problem or feature of that show is my hilarious wall-to-wall comedy sense of humor was not entirely shared with the people, what we would call back east. And so we did 13 of those, and it was popular enough. But contemporary with that was my guest appearances on Ed Begley's show called Living with Ed. And that was, it helped build both shows. It was on a thing called Planet Green, which was an idea that Discovery had for a channel about the environment. But it didn't sustain. It's very common to focus on individual activities and how they affect the environment. And you do. Everything that you do affects everybody in the world because there's only one atmosphere. We all, as the saying goes, share the air. But the problem of climate change, for example, or desertification of the Sahara is growing and people are being displaced. There's not enough clean water and so on. Those are huge problems that require probably huge engineering solutions, huge engineering works to address. And that's sort of a step that powers that were not willing to get into. Like it may be future, like when we eat food from a garden, there's tremendous effort that goes into that, cultivating the soil, pruning the trees or the plants, picking the strawberries, whatever it is. And probably in the future, generations are going to have to engineer the earth. Like you're going to have a system to reflect sunlight back into space. You're going to have enormous fresh water generating or producing facilities. You're going to have big solutions to these problems. And that's what I someday would love to do a show about that.
No, with the success of Science Guy, you kind of had a platform. I mean, all these shows kind of gave you a platform. One thing I was curious, just to sidetrack a little bit, there also became a little bit of a celebrity. You did some guest appearances on things, Numbers in particular.
Oh, it was really fun.
How did Numbers come about, and what did you do on that?
So, through the success of the Science Guy show, I did a talk at the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, the NCTM. And the two people in the audience, Cheryl Hooton and Nick Falaci, saw my talk. And they say, you can ask them, this is hearsay now, they say that inspired them to do to create the show Numbers, where a mathematics guy is the hero. And if that's true, or if it's partly true, that's pretty cool. So they included me on the show as an actor. You know, I did a lot of medium-level acting on this comedy show, and or sub-medium. So I had a lot of experience, and there's a cool little thing. They made me a cast member, just in the credits. I wasn't guest star. I was just Bill Nye. It's cool. It's very nice. And they were very great. They'd give me the scripts, and I would make recommendations, and I would write some of the lines that my character, Bill Waldy, who looked just like me, had the same first name, that he would say. It's cool.
Did you get a lot of offers like that at that point? Because you had a certain level of celebrity.
No, I'm open. Bring it on, people. I'm open. What I'd really like to do, I think, would be a great use of me for the modern audience. I'm not kidding. I'm being objective about this. Is be the voice in an animated movie. I think that would be good for somebody. I think they'd make money on it. So I think my voice is distinctive enough, and I have enough experience where I could deliver the lines without blowing it, I think. But people may disagree, and that's why I've never gotten the gig. So there we are.
And sort of summing up a little bit, but I'm curious. First, I'd read that you had an internet show coming. Is that the next step for you? Is doing internet, do you think?
I've been approached by Nerdist, YouTube, and, I guess the Ustream people all want me to have my own channel. It sounds great. Yeah, cool. Bring it on. But it's going to be a few weeks. because everybody, oh, you want to get paid? No, but we're putting you, I mean, it's going to be great exposure for you. Okay, yeah. But it takes time. You can't do other stuff while you're doing this, whatever. Much as I love it. I really do love television. I just love working on television. I guess you'd have to. Like, seriously, you watch a newscast, the people who are successful like being on television. It's not, I mean, you can say it's bad, but you need some of those people to do your newscast.
What do you like most about it? What, of all that you've done and you look back, what do you like most about being on television?
What you want to do as an actor, what you want to do if you have an opinion about anything, is affect someone else. You want to affect their emotions. You want to give them something to think about. That's what I like. I look back, we did a bit about human immunodeficiency virus, and you're just trying to strike the right tone. You're talking to kids generally about this very dangerous disease that is generally caused by activities performed generally by adults. But you want them to be aware of it, especially teenagers, especially. And I was very pleased with that performance. I don't know, people may disagree.
Now I had read you have some patents. I don't know if you could describe what you have patents in and how that.
Yeah, so I patented an improvement to the ballet toe shoe, which is totally derivative of the Science Guy show. We did a show on bones and muscles. So we went to the Pacific Northwest Ballet, which is a Seattle ballet. And there's all these young women with all these crazy injuries and scars up and down their ankles and knees and stuff. Injuries that people get much later in life or who've been literally in battle. And I just realized the toe shoe hasn't changed in centuries. So I just got to thinking about it. And I need the Anna Korakova of ballet. Is that right? Somebody who's pretty good and a babe and thinks it's a good, and believes in the product. So it has a little thing for your phalanges, this part of your foot to rest on. So it takes about half the weight off your toes. And I think it would be better. There's one ballerina that liked it, but she had kids and retired and it's not her thing anymore. So I'd love to get back on that. And then I have a couple things for baseball. The Fango, which allows you to pick up the ball at fungo practice. And if you don't know fungo practice, yes, you do. It's when the coach picks the ball up, throws it in the air, and hits it with himself. That's called hitting fungos, fungo practice. You take fungos, you shag some fungos. So it's a thing for picking the ball up without having to bend down on the end of your bat. And that's selling. It's not making a fortune, but we're selling a few. And then there's the ThrowTech Trainer, which gets you to turn your hand. You may not be aware of it, but when you go to throw, when you move this part of your hand, your muscles that are engaged and tendons are way up here. Yeah. And so this is to teach people to turn the ball, as the saying goes. Because I wasn't taught it. I had to learn it as a grown-up, so I never can throw very well. Everybody makes fun of me. I can't throw. I can throw, but not very well.
Do you have any advice for an aspiring show host of anybody who will sort of follow in your footsteps?
Well, just remember it's got to be an extension of you, or it won't go. And the other thing is, you are when you go to look at the call sheet, you are the on-camera department. Everybody there is there to make you look good, and you got to respect them and help them help you do a good job. If you're all working to the same thing, it'll come out well. And for me, I mean, part of it, I'm an engineer. I'm very proud of being an engineer, and I just won or was awarded this thing I did not expect called the Ralph Coates Rowe Medal from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, just to talk about me. And that's a cool thing. You don't apply for it. It just sneaks up on you. Apparently they call your colleagues in academia and stuff and see if you're the real deal. So I'm an engineer, but my first love and the thing that really drove the show is science, is pure science. This way that humans have figured out to learn about the universe, to discover things in nature. And by being true to that, it's exciting. And as I say, it fills me with reverence that we, who are made of the same stuff as stars, can understand this is really, it's awe-inspiring.
What, in kind of summing up all of this, looking at the legacy of you and the show, Bill Nye the Science Guy, what is the legacy? Do you think you've changed the attitude about science, and what is your legacy?
Well, my legacy is we got a lot of young people excited about science, I think. That's minimally. In the English-speaking world, and apparently in the Spanish-speaking world, a lot of people watch the show. I can't speak Spanish that fast. That's not my, you can tell, it's not my voice. Wow, guy talks fast. I guess I talk fast in English as it goes. So ultimately, though, I would like the people who, well, here, can you wait a sec? I'm not leaving. So this is the original rules of the road. This is a document I gave to everybody who came to work on the show. And our objective was to change the world. And ultimately, in the future, the United States would be the world leader in science and technology, making the best transportation systems and environmentally responsible engineering works for the future. So that was really the goal of the show, to change the world. So if somebody who watched the show were to cure cancer, that would be pretty gratifying. If somebody who watched the show were able to come up with something that really helped us to get a lot of energy cheaply in an environmentally responsible way, that'd be really good. Or groups of people, that would be really good. But the idea was really, was big. So-called BHAG, big hairy idea. So we'll see. I mean, it's still, people coming of age right now would be to produce the best transportation systems. The trouble right now is I need reading glasses, but we'll see if it works out. So this was, the rules of the road is based on the Roadrunner. So you may not have thought about this, but the Roadrunner's always on the road. The Coyote, he can jump all over the place in the desert, but in the bird's eye view, when the road goes like this, so does the Roadrunner. And so that one constraint shapes the whole cartoon series. And this is a fundamental idea that you got to the next generation, the next science guy, the next Mr. Wizard, whoever he or she is, say, be true to the science and just stay on the road. Finding ways to leave things out is a huge time saver.
Okay, well, thank you for doing this. This is actually the perfect way to end.
Good. Well, let me get my glasses. Hang on.
Okay.
So here are the rules of the road. Produce a TV show that gets kids and adults excited about science so that the United States will again be the world leader in technology, innovation, and sound management of the environment. For example, when our audience is of age, we'd like them to produce the best transportation systems in the world, e.g. cars, electric cars, trains, and aircraft. And that's a result of me. I worked in airplanes for a while, but the objective, change the world. And I still say that all the time, and people make fun of me for saying it. And it's the way it is. So this is the very first document, and I kept it.
Has there been like the most concrete example you've ever seen of somebody who watched your show and has done that? I don't know if like somebody has said, look what I built, look what I did.
Well, so many people who are physicians, who are doctors, come up to me and say they became doctors because they watched the show. And so many people who are engineers. I was at SpaceX the other day, space exploration, down in Hawthorne, California, just south of of LAX airport, Los Angeles International Airport. And so many of the young engineers said they became engineers because they watched the Science Guy show. Now, are they telling me that because I'm there or because it really did affect them? I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. It's wonderful.
And if you had to choose being a Coyote or Roadrunner, which one would it be?
I think the Coyote goes through a lot of trouble. Roadrunner has a pretty good gig. But they both live, there's a lot of tension. The Roadrunner's about to get killed, but eaten. And the Coyote's starving through the whole thing. I mean, it's troublesome. I don't know, I'd rather just be a human.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. I think
Well,
we're-
we finished just happened. I met Paul McCrady. Now, you've never heard of Paul McCrady. Yes, you have. There's an airplane powered by a bicyclist that went across the English Channel. He designed that. And his company, Aero Environment, makes all kinds of military airplanes that are this big. And so the guys won't leave the compound of the fort of the revetments until they can throw one of these small airplanes with a video camera out and look what's going on the battlefield. Anyway, he tried to build a leaf blower that wasn't so loud. And we'll see what happens with that.
It's the perfect Southern California invention.
Well, it's not just Southern California. It's all over the U.S., all over the developed world, people use those things. It's bad in so many ways. It's loud, tears up the landscape, and generally they're two-cycle motors, which have a really unnecessarily bad exhaust. I'm trying to choose my words because it's going to end my career. Unnecessarily troublesome exhaust. So thank you all very much. This is big fun.
Thank you for doing it. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great. Sorry for the trouble this morning. It cracks me up.